Hello. Hi, Crystal. Okay.
Hello. I was talking, but you couldn't hear me.
Welcome back. All right, we will give this a minute for people to click on here. Welcome, everyone. People keep loading on here, and then we will get started. Okay. Well, welcome, everyone. I'm glad to have you with me tonight. It's so much more fun to talk to people than a screen. So I'm glad you're here. We'll also be recording this for the people who can't be here live so that they can catch this after. But welcome to all of you who are here live. Feel free as we go through to unmute yourself if you have a question that you want to ask, or there's also a chat box that you can type your questions into that I can answer. If there's ones I can do as we go along, I will do that. And then we'll also have some time for more Q&A at the end. So hopefully we can get all of your questions answered. All right, hang on just one second here. All right. Okay. For anyone who doesn't know me, let me just quickly introduce myself. I'm Angie Christensen, and I am the owner and creator of Simply Divine Eating and Simply Divine Healing. I've been teaching for a lot of years in the holistic world and all sorts of different things. But tonight I'm going to be sharing with you my personal story and what I have learned from it, because it is what has over time gradually created, shaped, changed, and my understanding of healing in general, and as well as changed who I am in the process. So we're going to be talking about all of those fun things tonight through my own personal experiences. The principle I want to really illustrate for you tonight, as I tell you about my own journey and some of the specific things I've learned from that, is the underlying truth that your body is a mirror. And what I mean by that is your body is your partner. It's not your enemy. We have been taught to look at our bodies as if they betray us, as if they fall short of what we need them to do, as if they're malfunctioning, all of these really negative ways that we have been taught to look at our bodies. But the truth is, your body is your partner, and it is trying with everything it has to help you and to heal you and to teach you and to help you grow. And even our illnesses are part of that experience, part of what our body is trying to do to help us. And so your body is literally a mirror, and it's trying to, through what happens to you physically, emotionally, mentally, all of the above, hold up for you a reflection of something you need to see that has gone unseen by you up to this point. And through the actual experiences that we have with our body is literally trying to hold them up in front of our face in a way that we can see it. Because once we can see it, what we are going to learn in that mirror is something that's absolutely pivotal to us healing, to us growing, to us actually becoming who we are here to become. And that is actually the role that illness plays. It's a mirror for you. And I'm talking about all kinds. And if you recoil a little bit at that thought, that's okay. Just stick with me and let me show you as I go through my own personal experiences what I mean by that and how this works and what it really looks like in our lives and why our body is really helping us and what can come out of that when we work with our body as a partner instead of as an enemy. Okay. So let me tell you my story. This is in sections because I have experienced some different things at different times in my life. And so I'm going to tell this to you kind of in stages of what my healing looked like and the things I learned as I went along. Does anyone have any questions before I get started into the actual nitty-gritty details? Okay, I will dive right in here. Okay, so just a little bit of background. I'm not going to go as deep as I did in the last class, but I do want to tell you a little bit about my first experience with healing. Growing up, I was basically the poster child for the American lifestyle. I had a life that was full of processed foods and sugar-filled foods. I came home from school every day and pulled a hostess something out of the freezer, a Twinkie, a cupcake, something. That's what I had as my after-school snack. And I was well acquainted with things like Hamburger Helper and all of those fun processed foods. I was also one of those overachievers, perfectionistic type people and had that approach to my life. And the third thing I had going for me was that I had no idea how to really deal with or process any of my emotional experiences in a positive way. I had no tools. I had no idea. Everything that happened to me, I simply reacted to. I didn't know how to do anything else. And when you put those three together, when you put the standard American diet and you combine it with the standard American overachiever perfectionist lifestyle, and then you add in the fact that in our culture, we are not taught at all how to handle and process our emotions, you have the trifecta for disease. And I was a key candidate because I was living all of those all of the way. And so what that meant was that by the time I was a teenager, I started to be diagnosed with chronic illness. I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia at 15. I was put on 3 different prescriptions for that. Irritable bowel syndrome got added to the list, interstitial cystitis. I had lots of different immune things going on and allergies. I had mental health things going on, anxiety and depression. But then the one that really was severe enough to bring my life to a screeching halt was really aggressive endometriosis that led me to have 6 surgeries in 5 years. And that was it. That was the moment I said, never mind, this isn't working. Obviously what I'm doing is not working because I'm getting sicker over these years. Despite all the medical treatments I'd done, despite everything I was doing that the doctors told me to do, I was getting sicker. And I could see that. And there was a point in the year 2000 that I called that quits. And I said, that's it. I'm going to do something different. I took ownership of my life and I dove in to learn everything that I could. And at that time, I really only made one major change in my life, and that was food. The one thing that everyone can agree on is that when it comes to our bodies, there is nothing more important than what we eat. And that's just truth because your body functions are dictated by what you put in your mouth. So, I mean, there was no question that that's where I needed to start. And that was all I knew how to do at that time. And of course, last week we went into all the details of what I learned from that experience. But basically, what I learned how to do was how to eat in harmony with my body. It's not a diet. It's not about dieting and restricting and whatever. It's about simply learning how your body is designed to eat and putting in the things that match that so your body can actually function. And that is the only change that I made. at that stage of my life. One thing. I fixed that. And the result of that was that some of the things were gone almost immediately. Things like the IBS were gone almost immediately. The cystitis was gone almost immediately. And then the things that I'd had longer standing, the more chronic, serious, lifelong, right, diseases that can't ever go away, that don't ever go away, went away. But that took a few years. That took a few years for those to for my body to calm down and to cleanse and to heal and to regroup and change how it did some things. But it did. And so within a few years, I was off all my medications. I have not had another surgery since 2001. And that was simply from changing the food. And so that is without a doubt the number one key to true healing. And I want to stop for a second here and define what I mean by true healing. Okay, the way we in our Western society are taught to handle illness is to suppress symptoms. Okay, so when we get a headache, we take a medication that blocks the nerves so that we no longer can tell that our nerves are sending a signal that something is wrong, right? Or if we get diarrhea, we take a medication to cause all the water in our colon to dry up, to stop the diarrhea, to stop that, silence that symptom, right? Well, the problem with that is that symptom is there for a reason because your body's trying to help you with something. And so we are taught to either ignore our symptoms or shut them up, to suppress them. And the giant problem with that is, as we do that, we can't ever heal, ever. That's why so many of these things become these incurable lifelong diseases, because when what you do is suppress, what you do is you take the imbalance that's existing in your body and you just push it in deeper and harder and deeper and harder and deeper and harder until it just becomes ingrained in every cell and function of your body. Because what your body was trying to do was give you a symptom to teach you how to change something so that the imbalance could be corrected and the illness would go away. Now, there may be some of you that really tense at me saying that because you've been told that something you have or someone you dearly love has something that cannot be cured. It cannot. Okay, so the one thing I want you to know is anytime you are told that, what it means is the person talking to you doesn't know how to cure it. That's all it means. There is no way for any individual in this world to be omnipotent enough to stand up and tell you whether anywhere on this entire planet, in the wisdom of any of the billions of people on the planet, and within the reach of any of the amazing healing modalities on the planet, there's no way for one person to ever tell you that in that entire system, there is no way to heal or cure what you have. Like, think of how idiotic that is for anyone to presume to be so presumptuous to stand up and say that cannot be healed. You will live with this for the rest of your life. I mean, really, the egotism of that is astounding because the more I learn and the more people I meet and the more countries I go to and the more modalities I learn and the more things I find out, this earth is filled with things that heal that we just don't know exist because we haven't run across them yet. And that's all it is. So please know that if saying that makes you uncomfortable, it's not because if someone's told you that you cannot heal or something is incurable or something is lifelong, they're not lying to you. They don't know how to do it. And that's all it means. So talk to somebody else, look somewhere else. There is so much out there. And so true healing is the process of working with our bodies and the symptoms our bodies are giving us to decode. It's a very intricate code to be able to decode exactly what the imbalance is in our body that allowed us to get that disease in the first place. Because for all of us, we're all dealing with something. We're all mortal, right? But none of it, there's nothing that we have that every single person on the planet has, right? So there is always some imbalance in us to start with that allows a disease to happen. And the amazing thing about what true healing is instead of silencing the symptoms of whatever disease has come to the surface and driving the initial underlying imbalance deeper in the body, what we do is we learn how to decode all these things our body's telling us. We go underneath and we correct the underlying imbalance that allowed that disease to take hold in the first place. And that allows things to disappear. And not only can diagnoses disappear, but then the body is stronger than it was before it got sick. And so it's actually less likely to develop the same disease in the future, or a similar, or even another chronic condition or acute condition in the future, because by correcting the actual underlying imbalance that was there in the first place, you now have a stronger body after your illness instead of a weaker body. That is true healing. Okay, that is the approach we're going to talk about how to do tonight. It's a completely different way to look at illness. Okay, so I had all of these things that I had been told were lifelong things that I would just have to deal with, and they started to disappear from simply getting the food that I ate back in harmony with my unique body. Now, the reason that was so effective at that moment in time was that is what my body wanted me to learn right there. That's what the mirror was trying to show me. At that very moment, the mirror was trying to show me how the way I was eating was completely disrupting the normal function of my body. And that if I could change that, my body function could change. And so that was what the mirror was trying to show me. And because I got the right message and I corrected the right thing, dramatic change happened in my body. And I had a solid decade there where my health was stable. And I know there's no way, I don't think there's anyone listening to this that knew me back then. So it's very hard for anyone to understand. But I was going from a place where my life revolved. I had gotten to the point that my life revolved around my illness. It revolved around hospitals. It revolved around surgeries. It revolved around doctors. It revolved around, that was my life. That is what it had become. And so to literally, through a single change in my life, walk from my life literally being on the line and just trying to stay alive and keep my body functioning, to I got a decade with that single change where my health was different and my body was stable. And that was an amazing gift, because that opened up a decade where we were able to adopt 2 children and bring these 2 special needs kids into our home. And I was able to take care of them instead of me, because I had been able to stabilize my body in that way. Now, one thing I have noticed, I will tell you, is that if you talk to people who say, oh, I tried that, and I've tried healing naturally, I've tried eating healthy, and it just didn't work, they didn't really do it. Okay, I have never yet met anyone who said that their health didn't improve through food fairly dramatically, unless they aren't really doing it. And that is where you have to get some education, because what the world is telling us healthy eating is a joke. You guys, it's politically driven, it's media driven, it almost has nothing to do with real science or real biology. And so you need to get some education. And that is what my Simply Divine Eating Academy, online academy for, is to walk you through what that looks like, what it looks like to really do that, what the healthy fats and the sugars and healing your gut and learning how to eat the proteins and the carbohydrates in the right way for your body, right? Tweaked for your body. that process, if you really do it, I promise that there are dramatic improvements that come from that one thing alone. And people will ask me, they'll say, do you believe you can heal anything with food? And I have a really simple answer to that is, I do not believe that you can heal everything with food alone. And I'm going to give you an illustration up next. But this I do know, you can't ever heal anything perfectly without the food piece being in place. Because if you don't get the food piece in place, then we are literally throwing our body out of whack 3 times a day. And there's no way to do that and have your body stay in a good, stable place long term. It's just not possible. So no, I do not believe you can solve everything health-wise with food alone, but I do know that you cannot solve it without it. So that's why that is principle number 1. Okay. But now I want to tell you about my second health crisis, second healing, whatever, depending on which way you want to look at it. This happened to me in 2013. So we're a good decade later after I had done all those other things, and I had learned so much since then, and had come a long way, but I hit something totally new. And this hit me at a level that was far deeper than anything else that I had ever faced with myself or with my kids. And what happened was I had a few months where I started having a lot of abdominal pain. And then I got to the point where nothing was coming through my colon anymore without help. Like without an enema, my body could not move things through my colon anymore. And ended up finding out once it started bleeding that I had a massive bleeding tumor in my colon. And in the process of dealing with that and looking at that and trying to figure out exactly what was going on with my body and what my body needed me to do, I heard the words, "That looks malignant." Now, when you hear those words, you go to a new place. That is a new journey, and some of you may have faced that. Everyone has someone they love that has faced that. And so I do talk about this very carefully. I want to be as open and honest about this as I can, but I also want you to know that I talk about this very carefully. And there's 2 reasons for that. One, this is a highly emotional topic for people, and I know that there can be an enormous amount of pain connected to this topic. And the other reason is there are a lot of legal ramifications of talking about this topic. So I will do so very carefully. So in talking to you about my experience with my tumor, I want you to know that all I am doing is sharing my experience. This is not a prescription. I am not advocating any specific protocol of treatment. I am not criticizing any specific protocol of treatment. What I am doing is sharing the experience that I had with this and what I personally learned from my own individual experience and what it did for me, what it was for me. Okay, so I want you to understand that that's where I'm coming for this. Now, for me, I had already fixed largely the food component in my life. I had taken care of that. So where on earth did this come from? I was almost 40, but you know, that's not something that you expect to look at in your 30s. And where did it come from? For me, this one was precipitated by an emotional event. Now, your body, all of our bodies, they are amazing. They are so amazing. And they can take a lot. And so I have found, as I have studied health and healing, that there is never an illness, never, ever, ever an illness that only has one cause. Never. It doesn't exist. If your body gets hit with just a germ, it can totally handle it. Your body's made to handle germs, despite what everyone's telling you. It's totally made to handle it, and it can. If everything else is in a good place, your body can totally handle a germ. If it gets handed a trauma and everything else is in a good place, your body can totally handle it. Okay. If you get hit with an environmental pollutant and everything else is good, your body can handle it. The problem is we get illness when we get hit by multiple things at once, or when multiple things build up, which is probably more often the case. So there's never a time, in my opinion, ever, that an illness has only one cause. And this is the other reason why, you know, if you're struggling with something in your own life with yourself or someone that you love, and someone comes in and says, oh, take this supplement, it changed my life, or do this diet, it changed my life, or take this, it changed my life. It doesn't always work. And the reason is because the multiple factors that led up to creating their disease are not the same multiple factors that lined up to create your disease. And so despite the fact that you may have the exact same disease, what led to it, the underlying imbalance that led to it, is not going to be identical. And therefore, what will create true healing will never be identical for two people, ever. Despite if we have the exact same illness, because we have to look at what all those corresponding factors are. Well, in this case for me, obviously there were multiple factors that went into this, but I know what was the straw that broke the camel's back. I know what was the final ignition in that, and it was a specific, very emotional, traumatic kind of event for me. And I can trace everything starting to fall apart back to that moment. And so emotion is what tipped the scale, so to speak, this time for me. So food didn't fix it by itself, because food was no longer the major factor. And my body had something else that it needed me to learn this time. I'd learned the lessons of the first experience, and this was a completely new experience with completely new lessons, which meant I had to start over a little bit. And it was hard. So, but there were 3 more keys of healing that I learned through this experience that I'm going to tell you the story and kind of illustrate these 3 keys of healing as we go. Because I needed all of them this time. I needed all 4, the food and then the additional 3 that I learned, in order to really heal. Now, whenever you are given a piece of news that could mean your life, that is an incredibly shocking and terrifying moment that I think most people don't forget. I still remember where I was standing at the moment. I don't remember the exact day, but I know what time of the year it was. And it's a big thing, right? To know that there's something going on that could cost you your life. And one of the major things, if you're dealing with anything involving the word cancer, which if you've been paying attention, you will have noticed I did not use up until this point. There's a reason for that. I chose never to use that word in my experience. And the reason for that, and there again, that doesn't mean everyone needs to do it this way, but there was a reason for me that I did that. And the reason for me is that cancer is a word that carries enormous baggage in our culture. Like, the word isn't neutral. It's got all this stuff hooked to it. It's got all of these fears. It's got all these labels. It's got all these expectations. It's a word that carries a boatload of garbage with it. And I didn't want to carry any of that garbage, no matter what I was dealing with in my body. And so I chose not to ever use that word. And I talked about my tumor, and that's what it was. But the other word was something I chose not to be a part of. I decided that what our culture has created around the word cancer wasn't something I wanted any part of. And there again, that was just me. That's how I needed to do it. Because with that culture comes all of this, so much fear. Like, I think when you're dealing with something like that, dealing with your own fear is easier than dealing with everybody else's around you. Like, there's just so much fear. And I wanted to remain separate from that. So I was faced with a moment, well, I guess a whole experience, more than a moment, where it all came down to this question, this single question for me. Do I really believe it? Do I really believe it? And that question was everything that I had studied, everything that I had learned, everything that I had taught, that the human body has the capacity to heal itself when given the components that it needs to do it. Did I believe it? Did I really, really, really believe it? Because when your life's on the line, you find out what you believe and what you don't really fast, right? Because you're not playing around anymore. This is serious stuff, and you're making serious choices. And it all came down to that question for me. Do I believe it? Do I believe my body has the capacity to heal itself if I can do what it tells me it needs me to do in order to enable it to heal? Can it do it? And that wasn't a question I could answer in one day. There were a lot of weeks of thinking, praying, thinking, looking really deep inside to find out what I really believed. And I found out what I did. I believed it. I was willing to bet my life on it. And so started the process of figuring out what did I need to do to help my body heal. Now, I'm going to talk to you a lot about the different points and processes and principles from that. But the first thing I did was the same thing just about anybody probably would do, and that was I started researching. I started just looking for information out there. And the thing that surprised me the most that I found is that if you want to choose a natural cancer treatment, the hard part isn't finding one, the hard part is choosing one. There are so many things out there that have been proven to beat cancer decades or a century ago. You guys, we aren't actually looking for one. They're all out there. They just don't make any money, and so they have no money behind them to advertise them. But they're out there. And I found that the hard part was I actually had to choose. I had to choose which way I wanted to go. And in that process, I got to study and I got to learn. And then it came down to a matter of trusting my body that it could do this. Trusting my body enough to try to listen and believe those deep down gut instincts on what I needed to do, knowing that my body knew what I needed to do. If I could figure out how to decode it and listen to it and decipher it and follow what it wanted me to do, it already knew what to do. It totally knew what I needed. I just had to figure out how to talk to it. And that is what opened up this whole new approach to healing. Now, I have decided in my own mind, this is how it all took shape, okay? as I was going through this process, I labeled it that there's three levels of healing. Okay. And just because it's what makes sense in my head, I'm going to call them the telestial, the terrestrial, and the celestial levels of healing. Okay. Just because that's what I call them in my head. So that's what I'm going to call them for you. If you want to call them something else, that's totally fine. Okay. But there are 3 levels of healing. The telestial level is the level of medication and suppression. So we talked about that a little bit already. Your body has a symptom. The symptom is unpleasant. The symptom is unpleasant because it's meant to get your attention. But the symptom is unpleasant. And so we find a way to suppress the symptom so that we don't have to deal with the unpleasantness of the symptom. We haven't changed anything. We haven't cured a disease. We haven't fixed anything. We've just suppressed a symptom so that we no longer can hear the alarm that's going off. Okay, I call that the telestial level of healing because it doesn't ever lead to healing. It leads to increasingly lengthening lists of illness because we're pushing imbalance into the body instead of helping it get out of the body. So I call that the telestial level of healing. Then there's the terrestrial level of healing, okay? And this is the level at which we figure out that we can actually support the body with nutrition. Okay, we can support it with food, we can support it with herbs, we can support it with supplements, we can support it with energy medicine, we can support it with acupuncture, we can support it with, I mean, like we have all of these amazing healing avenues that support the body. So they aren't suppressing, okay? They're coming in at the level of our ill body, and they are trying to support our body to give it more strength to deal with the problem. This is the terrestrial level of healing. It's in my opinion, it is more beneficial and more effective than the telestial because we aren't trying to push anything down. We're trying to figure out how to help our body be stronger and deal with the situation it's dealing with. But it is the highest level of healing because those methods of support can also become 100% permanent, right? There's people who just pay to have that supplement every single month for the rest of their lives, right? Or they've bought into this program where there's a lot of, this is where the money gets spent in the natural healing world because it's also permanent, right? Like, it doesn't usually result in a healing that's deep enough that then you no longer need the support. Sometimes, but it's not the majority. This avenue is also designed to keep you as a permanent customer. Both of these two do. They keep you as a permanent customer because they don't usually heal the underlying problem, okay? Then we have what I call the celestial level of healing. And the way the celestial level of healing works is we've got all these symptoms right here, right, that are grabbing our attention. But under here is the problem, right? This is the imbalance, the underlying imbalance that's allowed the illness to take place. When you're on the celestial level of healing, you go down here. And instead of paying attention, really, I mean, you're paying attention to these symptoms, but you're not giving them your undivided attention. Your undivided attention's going down here. Because once you correct, the only purpose of a symptom is to tell you that there's an underlying imbalance. That's the only purpose of a symptom. Why does your finger hurt when you cut it? To tell you that you cut your finger. The purpose of a symptom in the human body is to point your attention at something that needs your attention. The symptom itself is not supposed to be where we put the attention. It's to point you to the real problem. That's the purpose of a symptom. And in celestial level healing, that's what we do. We see the symptom, we use it as a message giver, and we use it to go hunt down and find the underlying imbalance, address it, and symptoms go away because there's no reason for them to yell at you anymore. There's nothing on fire anymore, so there's no reason for the alarm to be going off anymore. And that's true healing because now the actual problem is gone And not only is that illness now not going to come back, but you're also going to be less likely to have another illness in the future because you have come out of your illness stronger than you went in. And when I was deciding how to deal with my tumor, that was the rule I set for myself, that I would only do things that would make my body stronger. That was my personal rule. There again, that's not a prescription for anyone else. But for me, that was my rule. I would only do things that left my body stronger because I did not want to come out of that experience changed for life for the worse. I wanted to come out of that experience changed for life for the better. That's healing. If you have really healed whatever you've been through, whether it is an illness, whether it's a trauma, no matter what it is, real healing means we're better on the other side of it than we were before it. We haven't just restored, we've healed, like we come out of it better than we went into. That's such an incredibly powerful thing, because if you approach healing that way throughout your life, then every time you have something that needs your attention and you work on healing it, you come out of it a better, more whole person. And your body's stronger, your mind is stronger, your spirit's stronger, your emotions stronger. And then you may hit another one and you come out of that. And that's growth. Like, that is where illness has so much capacity for good, because if we use it as a mirror and we look at it and we say, what are you trying to show me that I need to change? And we can answer that question and we can change it. We up level our entire life. Our entire life goes up a level. And if we heal like that, time after time, even if it takes time, it's okay, because you come out of it on the other side higher than you went in. And this approach to healing takes patience. I am not going to stand up and give you guys an infomercial promise that you can do that kind of level healing in a couple weeks. You can't, because you are addressing the deep needs and the deep set things that need to be corrected. It isn't fast. Probably the hardest thing of my experience with my tumor was I made the decision not to have surgery. I had a very clear message from my body as when I would think about surgery, that I would not come out of that surgery okay. That what would have happened, and I don't know what that was, but it was very clear to me that if I had chosen to have surgery, I would have lost something very important, or maybe many things very important, and I wouldn't have come out of that surgery the person I needed to be for the rest of my life. And so I chose not to have surgery, and I chose to support my body in the process of dismantling the tumor itself. Now, can your body do that? Can it dismantle a tumor? Absolutely, it can. If our bodies are working correctly, they're doing that all the time. As precancerous and cancerous things flare up and start, they dismantle them and get rid of it. It's what our body's supposed to do. So it totally can. I knew that, but it required an enormous amount of patience, because I had to give my body time to do that. And that took serious time. And that took, I had to know what I believed, you know, and I asked, it really came down to that question, do I believe it? I had to know what I believed, because I had to hang to that as I waited, and I waited, and I waited, and I waited, and tried to support my body in that process. And it took a lot longer than I thought it would. But then there was the time when the bleeding stopped. And there was the time when the pain stopped. And there wasn't anything there anymore. And I have actually had a colonoscopy since. And the doctor told me there was nothing. Not a polyp, nothing. So can your body completely dismantle something on its own? I went from literally not being able to pass anything through my colon, and except blood, to a totally clean colonoscopy, and my body did it itself. So I want you guys to know what is possible. I want you to know that the human body is capable of healing things that we are told it is not capable of healing. But we have been taught to be victims with our health because it supports the system. You guys, we've been taught to believe, oh, there's no way you could know enough to fix that. Only a doctor could. We've been taught to believe, oh, it's because of your genes. There's nothing you can do about it. Okay, you guys, that one has scientifically been disproven now because we have an entirely new field of genes called epigenetics that shows that you have enormous control over actually turning your genes on and off. So it doesn't matter what gene you have, it doesn't mean it ever needs to be turned on. So we know now that that's scientifically not true, but we're still that ideology is still floating around. Oh, it's just your genes. There's nothing you can do about it. Huh. Guess what? We can now scientifically prove that you can change the function of your own genes. Okay. Or you're told you just can't fix this. You've got to live with it. There again, no, you don't. Your body's just teaching you how to heal. Your body is teaching you how to heal. And if you're willing to engage in this process with your body, you and your body can do amazing, amazing things. Okay. So here are the three things, the three keys I used to heal from that colon tumor. Okay. So principle number 2 is recognizing and releasing the emotional, mental, and spiritual imbalances that we have stored in our body. Okay. Now, this is another thing that now is being proven. We have so many more ways to measure things now than we used to. But if you have an emotional experience, okay, this can be anything from an altercation on the playground when you're 6 years old of someone not wanting to let you be in their group to massive traumatic abuse and everything in the middle. It doesn't matter necessarily the severity of the incident. What matters is anytime we have an emotional event in our lives, if we do not know how to process, if we don't at the moment have the tools to process the emotions of that event, the body stores it for us until we can. And this is one of those things where you're like, okay, body, I know you're trying to help me here, but really, really, we need to hang on to every single emotional thing that ever happened in my life that I did not know how to process. But the answer to that is yes. If you want to read about this in depth, there's a book you can get on Amazon called Your Body Keeps the Score, about how trauma is stored in the physical structures of our body, and therefore then what we need to do if we want to heal. Because when we go back and want to fix those emotions that have been and release those emotions that have been stored, we now have to release them on 2 levels. We have to release them emotionally and physically because now they've been stored double. And so that is a process, but it's a doable process. Okay, totally doable. And so key number 2 is that it's going through the processes of releasing these emotions, these traumas, these memories that we didn't know how to deal with at the time. And so they got put into storage. They got put into storage into our muscles, into our heart. Grief often goes to your lungs. I mean, there's so many places that our body will store that stuff for us until we're ready to deal with it. But the downside of that is that while they're being stored there, that's a constantly resonating negative imbalance now stored physically in your body. And so it creates disharmony in the body that makes us much more susceptible to disease. And so my experience is there is never, ever a serious illness, and rarely even a cold, that does not have an emotional component that needs to be dealt with for it to be fully healed at the deepest level. But there again, the powerful good news of that is that once you do that and you release this thing that your poor body's been hanging on to for 32 years, waiting for the time when you were ready, once you release that, things just change, right? Your thinking changes, your body changes, your emotions, things change because, and always for the better, because you've been able to release something that your poor body had been stuck with. This is baggage. These emotions and traumas that we're carrying around are baggage, and they weigh down our body enough that they really do create disease. And there are so many tools now. These are the tools I told you I did not have the whole rest of my life. I did not have any tools to process emotion so that it can leave the body and move on, and it's done, and you don't carry that event with you anymore. You will know the difference from, it's really easy to know if you've got something stored, honestly. So if you think about an event, or if you think about a conversation with someone, or if there is a mistake you made, or or there was any abuse or whatever, and when you think about it, your physiology changes. Okay, so that means your breath catches, or the muscles in your shoulders tighten when you think about it, or your lips purse, or your forehead wrinkles, or your pulse quickens, or if there is the least bit of change in your physiology when you think about an event, it's stored. Okay, because you're watching that play out. You are watching the fact that your physiology and this event are now tied, and it is altering your body function, and you're seeing it in the moment. You will know when something has been released and is no longer being stored in your body when you can think about it with no physiological change. Okay, so you no longer start breathing quick. You no longer feel anxious. You no longer get a headache. Whatever it is that is the way that your body responds when that memory or that event or that emotion would come to the surface, whatever your physiology symptoms were, they're not there anymore. And I can tell you a very specific example of this, of where I experienced this. My next door neighbor was killed as an 18-year-old when I was in high school. I was just a couple years younger than him, and there's no time here to go into any details, but it was, our families were very close, and it was an extremely traumatic event for me. And it was such that 10 years later, I still could not ever walk into a funeral or a viewing of someone, because there was so much anxiety and so much emotion that would come up if I even tried to walk into a funeral home, that I couldn't do it. And when I learned one of the techniques that that I teach you in the Simply Divine Healing course, in the Simply Divine Healing course, we give you like 8 or 9 different tools, because different things are helpful at different times and for different people and whatever. But there's a lot of different methods to release those from the body. But I used one of those for the first time. And after doing that, I could then, and I now can think about that same event, and there's still sadness there, but there is no trauma. Like, see, I'm talking to you about it. You heard me talk about it tonight, and my throat didn't catch, and my heart rate didn't go up. 10 years ago, I couldn't have even talked about that event because I had so much trauma stored in my body over it. And now that's all gone. And so now it's not that I've forgotten the event, and it's not that it's still not that it's an incredibly sad thing that happened, but the trauma is no longer stored in my body. And when the emotion of that event is no longer stored in my body, then that trauma is not going to create disease in the body. So that's key number 2, is releasing, learning how to identify and release the emotional and traumatic and memories and things that we have got that are literally creating illness in our body. And in the Simply Divine Healing course, which is the long version of all this over the next 8 months that goes into all of this, I mean, we get to do so many fun things with this. We teach you what, based on what part of your body is hurting or struggling, that gives you clues to specific events or emotions that are being stored in your body. We teach you how to read the face and where different things show up on the face, gives you clues as to what and where it has been stored in your body, and therefore how to get rid of it. And that's lots of fun, because then you guys can all diagnose my face, which is very easy to diagnose. But anyway, so, you know, we do fun things like that. We go through all of these processes of helping you learn how to identify what is under there, what is hiding underneath that disease, that illness, that symptom that you just cannot get rid of. What's the underlying imbalance, and then how can you get rid of it? But, you know, one thing you can do right today that takes no training whatsoever, but can start you on this path of deciphering what your body's trying to tell you, is simply journaling. I know that sounds simplistic, but you can write down, my body is breaking out in a rash because, and then just stop and listen and write everything that comes to your mind, whether it makes sense or not. Just write until no more messages are coming, and then go back and read and see what you find. Okay? My body cannot get to a healthy weight because. And don't hurry it, don't rush the process, just stop. If it doesn't happen the first time you ask, that's okay. If you get nothing, that's okay. Come back to it the next day again. Ask your body again. Some of us we're all in varying degrees of habits of suppression, of taking all of those signals that our body's been trying to give us and pushing them back down. And so depending on how long and how severely you have been suppressing things, you're going to have to give yourself the time to reverse that trend and start to be able to recognize what your body's telling you again. And you absolutely will get there, but be patient. But just start writing, see what comes out. I cannot forget this event that happened in elementary school because, and just start writing. Or, you know, this hurt me and broke my heart because, and see what comes out. And your body will start to talk to you. It's begging to talk to you. All you have to do is start to give it an avenue. And really, I promise, it will start. Okay? So that's key number 2, is learning how to identify and release those emotions and traumas that have been stored within our body. Okay, key number 3 is learning how to use the natural remedies, all these amazing physical tools that are on this earth that can strengthen, reprogram, and repair the body. Now, I am hoping you paid attention to those 3 words: strengthen, reprogram, repair. Okay? Because I want you to think for a minute. Is there any medication on earth that can do those 3 things? Strengthen the body, literally strengthen its physical function, reprogram, and repair. There isn't. When we put a medication into our body, what it is designed to do is alter some function in our body. It changes something. So there's some biological function that's going on in our body, and it's in there to either stop it because we don't want it to happen anymore, or to try to start it because it's not happening. Okay, right? So we're putting a artificial substance into our body to change one specific function. The problem is you can't change one function artificially in the human body without changing at least one other function, and thus we have the concept of side effects. Whenever you change one function, you're going to set something else off. So if we put something in to try to artificially change one function, we end up throwing off others. And that's a side effect. And because of that, a medication cannot strengthen the body, because even if it's trying to fix one function, it's throwing another off. So it's creating weakness at the same time that we're trying to deal with a problem. Now, that's not saying that there's never a time for medication. That's not what I'm saying at all. But what I'm saying is this, and I want you to know this because this is really important. The things that are naturally on this earth are divinely created, and they have a divine intelligence inside of them. And it allows them to do things that no medication on earth can do. They can strengthen, they can reprogram, they can repair. And I mean in ways that would probably boggle your mind, okay? So here's one very direct example. I took an herb. One of the many things I used to strengthen, repair, and reprogram my body when I had that tumor was an herb. Okay, it's a tree. If you eat the fruit from it, if you've been to Hawaii or a tropical country, you've eaten soursop. Okay, soursop is this gigantic fruit. Well, the leaves, the herbs of the tree, is known as graviola as an herb. And graviola happens to be so anti-tumor that they have modeled chemo drugs after it. But here's the thing. If you take the chemo drugs that they modeled after it, that because they're synthetic, they may kill cancer cells, but they're going to kill good things at the same time. And the amazing thing about graviola is a divinely created substance with a divine intelligence that knows how to go inside your body and kill a tumor without your hair falling out. Because it wasn't made by a man or a woman. It wasn't made by a human with limited understanding. It was made by a divine being with perfect understanding, and the same being that created you. And so who knows exactly what your body needs to function. And I believe with all my heart that the solution to every medical problem that we have on this earth is already on the earth somewhere. The problem is we haven't taken the time to find them and learn them how to use, or we thought that was old wives stuff and we actually deliberately forgot, which is one of the greatest tragedies of our generation. And now we're trying to go back and learn all the things people before us knew how to do. But they can do things. These natural substances can do things. When you get a cut, there are herbs you can put on your cut that will change the rate at which the cells divide in your skin, so that your body can produce increased numbers of skin cells and close the wound in half the time that your body could do it normally at its normal speed of division. You guys, there's no drug on earth that can do that, but there is a plant that can do that. Okay, there are plants that can go into your body and actually literally reprogram the function of your body so that patterns of function stop, switch, heal, solve. And until you really start to play with these, it's honestly hard to believe the power of these natural things that exist on the earth. And no matter what you are struggling with, I guarantee you that there are natural things on this earth that can help you heal, that can give your body what it needs so that it can heal all the way, all the way. Really heal. They exist. We just have to start to learn how to use them. And there again, it takes some patience, because most of us haven't been taught this stuff our whole lives. And you have to be willing to practice and have some times that don't work out quite right and keep trying. And then you will see amazing things happen as you learn how to use these amazing tools. And so for me, as I was going through my process with my colon tumor, I was using natural remedies and herbs and teas and things that would cleanse, ones that would detox, ones that strengthened, ones that killed cells I didn't want there anymore, or more taught my body really how to do it. Those are the things I put into my body because they have an intelligence, really. These substances have an intelligence that can do things that we just stand here and we look at it and go, like, how can that even be real? Like, it is sometimes so astounding to watch that you're left with your jaw on the floor. But they're here, and they're here for you. God put those things on this earth for you. And so learning how to use those is a huge part of healing. Okay, so that was principle number 3. So principle number 4, okay, is learning to embrace the experience. Now, this just might be the hardest one, but it's incredibly important and incredibly powerful. It has been the hardest one for me, and one I still have to consciously work on because I'm a fix-it person. I want to fix it, and I want to fix it now, and I'm willing to do anything to fix it, but I want to fix it. And in the last couple years, I have had some things that I could not fix quickly. And it has developed some patience in me that was important, and it has taught me this 4th principle, okay? Usually when we are trying to heal something, we are coming from a point of fear. We're trying to fix it because of what could or we think will happen if we don't. We're scared of the pain, the literal physical pain. If I can't reverse this, I don't know how I'm going to handle the pain. That's a very real fear. We have the fear of losing our lives, right? If I can't fix this, I'm going to die. We have the fear of all sorts of alterations to our lives, of not having the energy to do what we want to do, of maybe having cosmetic changes to our body that we are embarrassed about. I mean, it's just, but almost always when we're trying to heal something, we're coming from a place of fear. There's something we're trying to prevent. There's something that we think is going to happen from this illness, this symptom, this disease, this whatever, that we don't want to experience. We don't want it. We don't want to go there. So I have got to fix this, and I've got to fix this now. And I'm here with a sigh to tell you that when we are in that place, things don't heal. They don't actually heal all the way. Part of the lesson that comes from these mirror experiences is learning to get past the fear. Fear in disease is a massive battle because it is thrown at you every single day of your life. The medical community as it exists now in the Western world fuels on fear. The more scared they can make you of disease, the more money they make. If you're not scared of disease anymore and you know how to fix it without leaving your kitchen, you're not a very good customer. And so they work very hard to make you think that these diseases are so terrible and so unfixable and such terrible things are going to happen to you that you better just look at them and nod your head and do whatever they tell you to do. It's completely fear-based medicine. Now, that doesn't promote healing, but neither does trying to heal from natural sources from a fear-based point of view. That doesn't work either. It doesn't matter which way you're going at it. If the predominant emotion is fear, healing will not happen. But if we can learn to trust the experience, then it allows the healing to actually complete. the process. So it's like once we fully embrace whatever this experience is we're going through that involves this pain, this illness, this mental health issue, this whatever it may be, once we learn to actually trust that this experience that we're having is leading us to something good, right? That mirror is never there to lead you to anywhere bad, ever. This experience is here to lead you to somewhere good every time, always, 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 always. But it takes a lot of work and a lot of practice to learn to trust that. But when we can, then we can look at whatever illness we're facing and say, okay, every single thing that happens with my body, my mind, my spirit, my emotions in this process is designed to lead me to true healing. And as we defined at the beginning, true healing means becoming who you really are and who you really can be, growing to your greatest capacity. That is true healing. And when you can trust that every part of the experience you're going through at the moment is lifting you there, leading you there, pushing you there, pointing you there, that's where it's trying to get you. Then you can take a breath. It's like you can look at it and go, okay, I trust this experience. I trust my body is going to give me no more pain than absolutely necessary. I trust that my body is going to give me the clearest signals that it can. I trust that if I stop and I listen, my intuition is going to lead me to the solutions that I need. I trust that God is involved here and He is putting absolutely everything I need in my path to find the solutions that I seek. When we can trust that and we really believe it, then healing happens. And I'm not saying that healing happens that second or even that week or that month or whatever, but it is an essential part of the process. We have to actually embrace the process we're going through, knowing that it's trying to do something good for us, for it to bring about the good that it's trying to do for us. We have to learn to trust and believe in it before it will manifest itself. And so as long as we stay in that place of fearing the actual experience we're going through, we stay stuck in the disease, and it either will not heal or it will heal and it will recur, because we haven't moved into that place of fully embracing the experience. And the other reason is because until you fully embrace the experience and trust it, you can't trust the messages your body's giving you enough to actually find that underneath that your body is trying to point you to of what the real imbalance is and what you can do to fix it. We have to trust our body before we can follow it. You don't follow someone you don't trust, right? So if we want to follow our bodies to the solution, we've got to actually trust them enough to walk behind them and listen to what they're saying and follow the breadcrumbs and follow the experience wherever and however long it needs to be. And that gift of getting past fear of disease is incredibly powerful. Like I say, because one, no one will ever be able to manipulate you again. But also because then each new experience can be embraced as a growing experience. One of the tools that I teach in the Simply Divine Healing course, I was in a online training for that, where I was in a whole group. I was in this online group with all these participants, and every person that had joined the group had a chronic illness because they were teaching us tools for this, right? So, and I was, at that point, I was really just shocked because as I would listen to people talk, there was so much fear. Like, just the fear that comes with serious illness is hard to grapple with. Like, it is big and it is hard. And I actually did not know until that moment that one of the gifts of the experience with my colon tumor was getting me past that, of learning that I would literally stake my life on the fact that I believe my body has, one, the capacity to heal, and two, will teach me how to do it. That once I was willing to stake my life on that and have that experience, the fear was gone. And as I was in this group training and I listened to people, I was able to back off and go, oh my gosh, I don't feel that way anymore. Like, I'm not scared anymore. And it wasn't until I was in that group and hearing all of this fear that I actually realized that one of the gifts of that experience that I had was that mine was gone. And it'll still get the better of me sometimes. And sometimes there's a new experience where I do not yet have the trust that I have that one down, right? That I know how to do that, or that, and I still have to gear myself up and say, I believe in this process. I will follow it through all the way. It may seem silly, but I went through this just this last week. Our puppy got attacked by another dog and bit, and we had these 2 big bite wounds. And I faced the fear again. It's like, okay, can I really do this? Do I have the tools? Do I trust? I can listen? I can do this. And the first 24 hours were majorly anxiety producing for me because I was running into that fear. But pushing past that and having the experience of learning how to help this puppy heal, I have come out of that with now new skills and new understanding and less fear. And every time we're willing to do that and embrace an opportunity to learn how to heal instead of running from it, then that fear dissipates, and that alone opens up the avenue for all of the good things to happen that we need to know and that we need to have happen so that we can heal. Now, I want to do a little exercise here really quick. For those of you who are live on the call, I want to do something called a popcorn response, okay? I'm gonna ask a question, and I want all of you to unmute yourselves, okay? And nobody has to wait for their turn. Nobody has to raise their hand. I just want you to shout answers out, okay? And I want us to make a list of as many positive consequences as you can think of from being sick, okay? What are the good things that come from illness, okay? I want you everybody unmute yourselves, or I can help here. I'll unmute people.
Okay. People give you attention.
Yeah, attention. That's actually a huge payoff, isn't it?
That to some lady, I don't know.
What else?
Learn to trust God.
Learning to trust God. Great. Keep going. There's probably hundreds, so we can come up with a pretty good list here.
People don't have big expectations of you.
Okay. Yeah, if we're feeling like we can't meet expectations, that's sometimes a way to mediate it, huh? Okay, good. Keep going.
Patience.
What?
Patience.
Patience. Great.
You gain more knowledge about how to heal.
Okay. Absolutely.
You learn to listen to the spirit better.
Yep. Absolutely. What else?
You learned what medications didn't work.
Yeah. You get to learn what does and does not work for you, don't you? In a very personal way. Great. What else?
You have an opportunity to give back after you learn.
Yeah. You learn things that can help other people who are going through the same thing. Great. What else?
I've learned that I heal faster than other people.
Okay. Hey, so there's things we learn about ourselves, a lot that we can learn about ourselves in that process, huh?
It might bring family members closer together when you go through trials like that.
Yes, definitely. Learning to help each other is a good thing. What else can you think of?
Helps you appreciate nature better.
Okay.
Helps you appreciate good health better too.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah, until we've known the other, it's hard to appreciate the actual health, isn't it? Okay, what else? I know one for me is clarifying of my priorities. When you have less energy, you're more careful where you spend it, aren't you? What are some more?
I think along that same line, it can also clarify your priorities in reference to your family, meaning, you know, if you come to realize that, wow, you may not have much longer, you know, or whatever the case may be, then it puts things in a new light about, you know, family being one of the most important things instead of things to do.
Yes, the to-do list shrinks.
In the large picture of family, you learn how much God loves you.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, what others you can think of? I think for me, another one, taking care of other family members with illness things, is it does teach you a new level of unconditional love. Other thoughts?
Hey, take another 5 bites. Oh, you already did. You sneaked them in.
Okay. All right. So there are actually a lot of reasons why illness can help us, isn't it? Like it actually serves some positive functions besides just the process of helping us learn how to heal. There's other positive things that come. So the other thing I want to clarify here is baggage versus burdens. If you think about a burden, something that is heavy, it may be hard to bear, but our burdens serve a purpose. Burdens help us to become more loving, more patient. They teach us things. All of these things you guys have mentioned that come from illness come from many different types of burdens. But a burden is something that pushes you forward in your progress, okay? Burdens actually propel our learning. They propel our growth. Then there's baggage. Baggage is worthless junk we are hefting around of our own choosing from the past that slows down our growth. Not the same thing. There's one you want to be willing to carry, and there's one you do not want to be willing to carry. We want to carry our burdens, and God in Scripture says He will help us carry our burdens. He doesn't ever say He'll help us carry our baggage. He's here to help us get rid of that one, okay? Now, illness can fill both roles, and this is really critical, in my opinion, to understand. Illness can be a burden. It can be something that is propelling our growth and our progress. And sometimes it propels our growth and our progress more if it's not solved quickly. And so there are times when God gives us the strength to continue. There are times when God leads us to the solutions that we need to heal later than we would choose, because that illness is filling a burden role. It's propelling us. It has a purpose in our lives. It's actually supposed to be there. Like it's been placed there for a reason. But then there's illness baggage. This is the stuff that comes from all of those traumas we're carrying around. This is the stuff that comes from our bad lifestyle choices. This is the stuff that is coming from a lot of the environmental consequences that we are, as a society, are making. This stuff is baggage. God didn't put it there, and it's weighing us down because we are the ones who've chosen to make it a part of our lives through our bad choices. or our uneducated choices or our ignorant choices. You know, it's not that I want to put a negative label on that, because we all do it. We're human beings, but there's baggage we're carrying around that can be gone the instant we choose to make the changes that are necessary to let it go, because it's serving no purpose. It's simply there as a mirror saying, hello, alarm, 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 alarm. It would be really nice if you dropped this baggage and then your shoulders wouldn't hurt so much. You know, like it's an alarm to try to get us to dump our baggage. And if you are facing illness in your life or someone that you love, this is something I really encourage you to pray about with various things that you may be dealing with. Is this serving a burden purpose in my life? And I need to focus more on the embrace it part for now. And then once I've gotten through the embrace it part, I know that God will lead me to the healing part when the time is right. Or is this baggage? And if I was willing to make some serious changes in my life, this could be 100% gone in a very short amount of time. And honestly, most illness falls into the baggage category. We've done most of it to ourselves. Once in a while, this exists, and it's important to acknowledge that, but it's not the majority in my experience. The majority of illness we experience in life is baggage, and it can be dumped the instant we choose to listen to the mirror and dump what it's telling us to dump. The illnesses really can go away. Now, on that line, I wanted to talk just a little bit about children, because our children are carrying a ridiculous amount of baggage that we adults have placed on them and that the world is placed on them, and we are seeing it in our kids' health. We have now reached the first time where the current living generation is expected to live a shorter life than their parents. It is now considered normal and average to have chronic diseases diagnosed as a child, and for sure as a young adult. Things that used to never be diagnosed before 50 or 60 years old are being diagnosed in children. This is baggage, guys. This is our poor kids' bodies struggling. And they're trying to point a mirror not just at what may be going on in their own body that needs to change, but I really do believe they're trying to give us a mirror to our whole society to say, guys, wake up. Look at what we as a society are doing to our health. Pay attention. And the place we're seeing this in our kids is just, we've got all of these behavior problems. We've got all of these neurological problems. We've got all the ADHD. We've got the autism. We've got the defiance disorders. We've got learning disabilities on a scale that has never even been imagined before. And then we're dealing with all the physical stuff. Now between 20 and 50% of children will be diagnosed with, well, not necessarily diagnosed, are estimated to have pre-diabetes or diabetes before they graduate from high school. That is ridiculous. Cancer is now a childhood diagnosis. That is ridiculous. You guys, this is baggage. We have got all of this immune dysfunction that's showing up in our kids in the allergies, the asthma, the autoimmune diseases that are popping up. This is not normal human body function. There is something we are doing that is causing these body functions to go haywire in our child. Okay, so yes, you may have a diagnosis that says, well, my child's body is doing A, B, and C. Okay, but why? Why is your child's body doing A, B, and C? What is it trying to tell you is out of whack? And therefore, what could you possibly alter that could change this child's life for the better? You know, as you learn to incorporate these principles for yourself, then the amazing gift we can give is to give these things to our children. You know, I have learned, as with all things, you know, when you teach anything, tuition is expensive, especially when it's life experience tuition. It's not the most pleasant thing in the world. And with our kids, all of our All of our adopted kids have various special needs. And this has been the other furnace of experience for us. But I tell you, the difference some simple changes can make in a child's life. My oldest child was one of those who was sick from birth. He had all the reflux, all the allergies, all the colic, all the everything from birth. I did not yet at that time know how to correct those quickly enough. I was able to improve things, but it took me a while. And the consequence of that was then the diagnoses continued for the first couple of years to increase as we got this winding, including an autism spectrum diagnosis, and some other things. And I had a child eventually whose behavior was such and that he would have been institutionalized. If this child eats a standard American diet, his behavior is so bad he would be institutionalized because we would not be safe. And if all I fix is the food, if I get rid of all of those things that are stressing his body, all of those artificial dyes, those preservatives, all of that, the chemical crap that we allow in our food system now, and I get all of that out, he is a different child. Literally a different child. My second child, when we brought him home at 2 years old, he was on hearing aids for not being able to hear. And he had eyes that were supposed to have surgery that were crossed funny. And as we got him home and started cleaning up his diet and getting some other things and doing some acupuncture and some other things to get his body balanced out, that child can hear just fine. And we were actually able to get his eyes lined up without any surgery. And he has cerebral palsy in one side, but is doing remarkably well and running around and getting into all sorts of things. I have watched this with my children, that if we allow into their lives all of the things that are polluting our world, and I mean that as much spiritually, emotionally, and mentally as I do physically. If you have one of these kids that is really struggling, what I want you to know is what you have is one of the shiniest mirrors. The more sensitive the child, the more aggressively they reflect back to us things that are not okay for them or for us. And so the more you have a child that's reacting, the shinier mirror you've got. So just know that. But that means the more careful they need you to be on all aspects, the things that are coming in through their diet, the chemicals that they're being exposed to, the media and things that they're being exposed to. They're more sensitive to all of it. They're just such a shiny mirror that they're trying to just yell at us and go, guys, this world as it exists is not okay. And it's working. We are starting to see things as a society that we weren't willing to look at before until we see it in the faces of our children. And there's a lot of us as parents, me included, that there are things I was not willing to acknowledge until I saw it reflected in the body of my own child. And there are truths that they are bringing to light through those super shiny mirrors if we will just pay attention. So if you have one of those kids, please know that the more they are struggling, hug them tighter. It's not a defect, it's a light. But it's a light that will be strongly affected, and it can be a major gift because it will help your family eliminate things on all levels from your home and from your family that'll make the world brighter for all of you. But it's not a gift that doesn't come without a heavy price and a very hard learning curve. So, if you're struggling with one of those and you'd like some help, reach out. But they are our mirrors, you guys, on a whole new level. So pay attention to that. If you've got a child that is struggling, don't criticize them. if it helps to have a diagnosis so you can get them the help that they need, that's great. But if it doesn't, the diagnosis isn't that critical. Figure out what is their body trying to tell you is out of balance, and pay attention to that. Not the conglomeration of symptoms and the diagnosis they fit in. Where are they pointing? Where are they pointing? And we have the power to change these children's entire lives as we incorporate these principles into their lives, because they can go from having a life that is a prison to a life that is a life, if we are simply willing to be the ones to look at those mirrors and try to figure out what they are trying to tell us. Oh, it's a fabulous thing once we learn how to do that. Okay. I want to give you a few points here in conclusion, and then I want to make sure that I leave time for you guys to ask questions at the end. Okay. I hope going through those experiences illustrates those 4 principles for you, right? So real true healing, the kind that eliminates diagnoses, that eliminates, that takes us up a notch and leaves us better than before we were sick in the first place. 4 principles: eating in harmony with our unique body, learning to identify and eliminate the emotions, the traumas, and the memories that have been physically stored in the body and therefore are contributing to disease. Learning how to use the natural things that have been placed on this earth that can strengthen, reprogram, and rebuild the body. And then 4th, learning to embrace the experience rather than fight it, because that is what allows all of the healing experiences that we need to line up in our favor so that that true, deep, lasting healing can happen. So you might not even be able to fathom at this moment what kind of healing that might mean in your personal life. But the real thing I hope you gain from listening to my story is hope. I cling to my story for hope when I face a new thing that I do not yet know how to conquer, because what I have realized is those principles are true. Our body knows how to heal and will do it if we will simply pay attention to the messages that are in the mirror and change what our body is asking us to change and give our body what it's asking us what it's asking us to give it intrinsically already, without you doing anything, knows how to heal. We just have to become those partners, and then anything, honestly, anything is possible. Any healing to anything is possible. So make sure you don't let anyone tell you anything isn't curable. Remember, it just means they don't know how to cure it. But don't close your eyes. Don't keep searching. Open your eyes, open your heart. Follow this experience wherever it's taking you. It's going to take you on the right path and teach you the things that you particularly need in order for it to become a healing journey for you. Okay. So if you are ready, okay, if you want to take that jump, remember, we've got the telestial healing, which is the suppression and the medication, the terrestrial healing, which is the support, the natural support, but that still leaves us in a state of permanently needing to try to target things. And then we have the celestial level of healing, which is going underneath the symptoms to find what the symptoms are actually trying to point us to, restoring, repairing, healing that imbalance so that the symptoms simply melt away. And that is what I am going to be teaching this year, is that entire process for 8 months of a weekly live class like this for 8 months of walking through the entire process. I will walk you personally through the entire nutrition process of figuring out exactly what your body needs to eat and putting those things into place just one step at a time. So it's not overwhelming. It's not going to be a fix everything all at once kind of things, to walk you through that process over the next 8 months, and how to do makeovers with the fats and the sugars in your home, how to know how to eat the proteins and the carbohydrates correctly so that they actually support body function. And then there's a whole class and a whole series, actually we do an entire month on gut healing, on all the things to heal the gut, because all of those autoimmune problems, all of those immune problems, all of most of our neurological problems all start from the imbalance that originates in the gut. And so we've got a whole month on helping you walk through that process of gut healing so that you have everything from the principle number 1 of the nutrition. And then we teach you how to do the emotional of all of those things of like, where is the pain in your body? What does the disease look like? What's showing up on your face? All of these different ways to identify what emotions and things have been stored in your body. And then we give you 8 different concrete specific tools that allow you to release those from the body. So you can find the ones you like the best, that work the best for you in specific circumstances. And you can start just clearing those out. And every time you clear out, you know, the health and mental health of your body lifts a little bit with each of those healings. And so we walk you through that process. And then there's the process of teaching you all the natural remedies, how to use the herbs, what ones to use, how to make the tinctures and the capsules and the teas, and how to do all of that. We go through how homeopathics work and identifying which homeopathics match that underlying imbalance that you've got, because they're one of the things that can go in there and actually reprogram and remove the underlying imbalance. So we teach you how to do that. We teach you how to do healing through food. We teach you how to do it through fermenting, through fasting, through all of these different things that actually use the resources of the earth to strengthen, reprogram, and rebuild the body. And then last, we also go through some really in-depth emotional processes with you to help you learn how to embrace the process, to get over those fears, to get past the perfectionism, to be able to look at things through a different lens, to be able to actually embrace this whole process. And over the next month, you will literally walk through that entire process of the celestial healing. And we do it with weekly classes just like this. And then we have online support groups, and we have specific challenges every month. And we have 2 challenges every month. And the winner of those 2 challenges every month gets a free 1-hour session with me to do whatever you want, to talk about, learn, dig into, problem solve on whatever you want. So you've also got the chance in this class to be getting personal sessions as well as the online support. It is just an incredibly well-rounded, complete approach to help you learn to heal this way. And when you get through, then when whatever you face comes your way, whether it's a diagnosis that one of your children ends up with, whether it's a new pain that pops up in your body, whether it's an allergy that all of a sudden you've got a food you can't eat anymore, whatever happens, instead of going to that place of panic and spending all this money on all of these different supplements or medications or whatever, you will be able to stop, close your eyes, talk to your body, figure out what it was trying to tell you, make the change, and move forward and watch the symptoms disappear, and be able to do all of that without the fear. Because you will have all the tools that you need to be able to face your healing with that trust that your body knows how to do this and you know how to support it in that process. So if you would like to join us for the remainder of the classes over the next 8 months, you can just go to www.simplydivinehealing.com. It's got the entire curriculum on there, all of the classes. There's several discounts listed on there. For those of you who are listening to this class, there's an early bird discount on there. There's a discount for signing up with a buddy so that you've got more support as you go through. And if you have purchased other classes from me, there's a lot of those that get credited to this course as well. So it turns out to be really ridiculously cheap for the fact that you're getting you're getting 32 classes for almost an entire year and all the support. It's priced very low, and I do that on purpose. I do that on purpose because I really want this to be available to anyone who would like it. So that is the resource for that. If you want to dig deeper with me for the rest of the year, simplydivinehealing.com. Okay, now I want to open this up for questions. Do you guys have any questions that haven't been answered, or any concerns left lingering that you would like me to address? Okay, that is the quietest I have ever had a class in. Liz, did you have something you wanted to ask?
Yeah, I'm a little hesitant because I got here kind of late, so I'm worried that you might have answered the question that I have. But I was wondering, I'm looking at doing the academy. Is there a way of doing them both together, or is it better to do one and then the other?
The academy is included in Simply Divine programs. So if you're going to do the Simply Divine Healing, you don't need to purchase the academy separate. If you have or do purchase the academy separate, then I credit that amount towards Simply Divine Healing.
Okay, great.
So you
Thanks.
do it either way.
Perfect.
But you don't have to pay double.
Right, right. Okay, all right, thanks.
The difference is if you do the academy, that's a study on your own course. Right. Everything's pre-recorded. You've got all the stuff to print out, the audio classes to listen to. Whereas if you do it in Simply Divine Healing, that's where we do it as kind of a group mentoring thing. So, so you're getting the personalized support through the same program. It's more personal.
Get personalized support. Okay.
So Angie, is it the same materials pretty much then, or?
Between the academy and Simply Divine Healing?
Yes.
All of the academy materials.
Angie, you disappeared.
Hey guys. So I think what she was going to say is that the academy is covered as we go through Simply Divine Healing. So each month we'll go through a different aspect of it, and you'll listen to the academy, and then we discuss it as a group and cover any questions that people have, and usually the challenges are associated with those as well. So
Crystal,
yeah,
I think I remember her mentioning that she had that she had several like recorded retreats. Are those included in the library one or whatever it was?
No, those are not part of the academy. Those are a separate cooking class. So she has, so she has kind of some different courses and things that are available. The online academy is her nutrition program, and then she has cooking classes that are more hands-on videos of her doing cooking, or I think most of them have videos. Anyway, so yeah.
Okay, that's what I wondered. I wasn't sure if those were included in the academy or not. So
no, yep, those are separate.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, and there she is again.
I think she's back.
You're on mute though, Angie.
When does it start?
Okay, sorry. Okay, my computer totally shut off. Hi. Okay, so Crystal, did you answer that, or?
Yeah.
Okay, so Academy's included in Simply Divine Healing, but Academy's this much, Simply Divine Healing's this much.
Okay.
Big difference in amount of content.
Okay. And then Melissa asked when the Simply Divine Healing classes start.
So I've got one more class that I'm offering for free next week, and then the week after that, it'll continue with only the people signed up for Simply Divine Healing. So 1st of March. And then we go through October, is it? Anyway, the whole schedule's on the webpage if you want to look at it. But okay, other question. Anything else I missed, Crystal?
Nope.
Okay.
So-
Thanks for keeping it going. Any other questions? You guys are a really quiet group.
If we have signed up for this class before and didn't finish it, can we jump on again, or how do we do that?
Okay, who am I talking to?
Leslie Zollinger.
Okay, Leslie. Okay, so which class are you talking about? The academy?
So last, the 8 months, did you do it last year as well? Am I getting that confused?
Yes, I did do it last year.
Okay, so I signed up for it last year, but I didn't complete all the recordings.
Oh, okay.
So they're just
so-
available to me, or can I jump back on with you guys again?
Either or. So for all of my classes, whether you guys do the academy or if you do Simply Divine Healing, the recordings are available to you forever. So Leslie, if you took it last year, those recordings are through the member library on my webpage, you can still get everything from the class. So if you didn't get to finish going through it last time, then you can go back and still watch all of those and get all of the materials. If you would like to go through it live again, anyone
Okay,
who's taken it before who would like to go through it live again, there's a bounce back price of just $50 a month if you want to take it live again.
join live. Okay, okay. And if I have I'm having a hard time getting on, Crystal, can I talk to you about that?
Yes, and Leslie, I am working on last year's videos, so they are not currently up on the website, but they will be. So if you've tried to get on,
Move them. Yeah.
yeah. So they'll be getting up there.
Okay.
So, but yeah, give me an email.
That's fine. That's
yeah.
fine.
Okay.
Okay, I'll just reach out to you, Crystal. Thank you.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yep.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay. All right. So for those watching this later, if you have any questions, just come into the Facebook group, the Simply Divine Eating community, and you can ask any questions there, and I can answer, and other people can answer, and we can make sure to get all your questions answered. And as you are moving forward in your health with your family, whatever that looks like, that Facebook community group is there to support you in that. So you can ask nutrition questions, you can ask healing questions, you can ask recipe questions, you can ask whatever you want. And there's a whole fabulous group of people there that can help support you and answer questions. And that's also what I use as my main hub for any questions that people have for me as well. So that's a great resource, ongoing all the time, for whatever you need as well. Okay. Thank you, everybody. And we will see you back next Thursday for the last of the classes that's available free to the public. And we are going to take all the principles from tonight and show you how it applies to managing weight. So now that you've learned all the principles from the first two classes, we'll take them and we'll apply them to a real life topic and let you see what that looks like. So we'll see you back here Thursday. And then the Thursday after that is when it will be, the classes will now be closed to just people who are taking the 8-month course. So you have until then, if you would like to join before those classes will be, the link will be available only to those who are continuing on in the private class. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful night. Melissa, will these videos be in the program? Meaning, will the video from tonight be permanently available if you are in the Simply Divine Healing class? Is that what you're asking? Yes. So yeah, these first 3 classes as well, they're only stored on Zoom for 1 week. That I'm making available to everyone, but we will be moving them onto the private web page for people in the full course. So yeah, if you take the full course, these first 3 classes and the other remaining 30 classes will all be available to you on the website anytime. Yep. Anything else? All right. Happy healing. I'll see you next week.